Good day and welcome to this tutorial on candidate progression in TxDOT Careers. Please note that all information shown as part of this tutorial is based on test data and is not related to any specific candidates or any specific job requisitions. Additionally, this is not a tutorial for how to screen candidates. If you have questions on screening candidates, please talk to your human resources generalist or your designated human resources contact, and they'll be able to talk you through the actual screening process. This is a mechanical demo to help you get people through the system on the TxDOT Careers side. So as we get started, we want to make sure that we have access to our candidates. So today we are going to work with Fozzie Bear. I am going to open Fozzie's submission. And as you can see on this page is everything that you would need in order to screen this candidate, as well as in the subsections that can be expanded and condensed as needed. Once you've completed screening, it is time to note that the candidate has either met the minimum requirements as listed on the job requisition, or if they did not meet the minimum requirements and therefore should be rejected. Once you've made that determination, you can go to the Change Step and Status menu, either through the icon here, or more likely through the More Actions menu here, which you can open by clicking on it, and then navigating down to the Change Step Status. This will open the Change Step Status menu. As you can see over here to the left, you see the current status of the candidate. It is a new candidate that has not been reviewed, so they are in to be reviewed status. On the right-hand side is where we can make our changes and adjust them to either meeting basic qualifications or to rejection. For this candidate, we're going to say that, unfortunately, Mr. Fozzie Bear did not meet the qualifications of this position. So we are going to open this menu and select Rejected. Once we do that, a number of options for why we are rejecting this candidate will show up here in a menu. You are required to choose one of these options. So we are going to go up to Does not meet required criteria for the role. And then if you would like to add additional comments, you may, but it is optional. Please keep in mind that any comments added are part of the record and are subject to open records request. Once you have completed any comments and you have your status set to rejected, you will apply and close, as we will not be moving to any other statuses with this candidate. Once your candidate has been rejected, you can see over here that their status has been updated to rejected, and that is how they will show up on the requisition or on the submissions page. They will also be considered an inactive record. So if you're having trouble finding them when you go to a requisition or to your submissions page, you may need to check the box that says Include Inactive Submissions. Let's go back to our submission list for this requisition. You can do so by coming up here to the Back to Submission List button, or if you want to simply move on to the next candidate, you can do so by clicking one of the arrow buttons here, which will automatically take you to the next candidate on the list. I'm going to go back to the submission list for this. As you see, because we have rejected Fozzie Bear, he is no longer an active candidate, so he is not showing up on this active candidate page. So now we're going to move on to a candidate that is going to meet our requirements. Let's see Conrad Waldorf. And again, make sure you are reviewing your candidates before you are updating their status. And again, in order to update status, you can use Change Step Status, or again, the More Actions menu, Change Step Status. Now we're going to say that our candidate meets the basic qualifications for the job. That will be the default option that will show up here, but it's always good to double check to make sure it's the one that is selected. Now, if I were going to continue on and send this to Human Resources for their pre-interview review, I could say apply and continue, which will apply the basic qualification status and move it to the next step so that I could update the status again. In this case, I'm going to leave this one where it is, so I'm simply going to say apply and close, which will apply the meets basic qualification status to this candidate. Now we can see over here to the left again, the status has been updated to meets basic qualifications, and we can once again go back to the submission list. You can also see how the selection status has updated here to show meet basic qualifications. So now we're going to go to our final candidate, Floyd Pepper. And we are again going to assume that we've reviewed him and that he meets our expectations. So again, you can use the Change Step Status icon or the More Actions menu, Change Step Status. Again, we're going to say he meets basic qualifications, and we're also going to say that I already know I want to interview this candidate. Therefore, I need to send this candidate to Human Resources for review before I can do so. So instead of saying apply and close, which will of course take me back to the previous page, I'm going to say apply and continue so I can add that next status. So now I have the option to use HR interview screen. This is the status that will send a notification to the Human Resources generalist or the Human Resources contact on this page, a notification letting them know that there is a candidate ready to be reviewed for interview status. So now that I see that status in there, I am going to apply and close. Now we can see that this candidate is in HR interview screen. Going back to our submission list, again, we can see our candidates have been updated over here at the other side. Once Human Resources has reviewed the candidate for interview, they will update the status to first interview status. It's a little hard to see here, so I'm going to go ahead and open the candidate so you can see what that looks like over here in the status section over here. So first interview status means that you are clear to go ahead and interview this candidate. First interview status is not the only status that we have. We are aware that some candidates go through multiple interviews, and you do have the option to return to the Change Step Status menu and indicate if a candidate is going through a second interview or even up to a third interview. If the interviews have been completed, you are ready to proceed to offer, but that's another tutorial that you can find on this page. In addition to a second or a third interview, you also have the option at this stage to reject the candidate if during the interview process you decide you are not moving forward with the candidate and you wish to reject at this step, you may do so. You also have the option to indicate if a candidate declines. So if you call a candidate for an interview and they decline and say they're no longer interested in the position, you can select has declined, and then we would ask that you get as much information from the candidate as possible so that you can, again, enter the details here for the reason the candidate may decline the position. So for this one, we'll say the candidate accepted another offer from another employer. So I can just put that there. Again, comments are optional and subject to open records request, so it's up to you if you want to put anything in there. And then apply and close. Once you decline a candidate, of course, the status will update here. And just like when you reject a candidate, the candidate's status will be set to inactive. So if we go back to the active submission list, we will see that we are down to one final candidate. Those are the major aspects of candidate progression, at least from submitting their application to the point where you may be rejecting them to the point where you may be ready to make an offer for them. If you have a problem or if you have accidentally gone one step too far, please reach out to your HR generalist or your designated HR candidate, and we can roll those statuses back for you. It's not a big deal. There's very few things you can do during this candidate progression that we can't undo in some shape or form. So thank you for your time. I hope this has been a help. And if you have any other questions, please do reach out to your human resources generalist or your designated HR contact for more information. Thank you and have a safe day.